Welcome, everybody. So glad you joined us this close to the holidays. I know how busy this time of year is, so I'm really appreciative that you decided to come, and I look forward to seeing what happens tonight and what you take away from this. So this is for anybody who's new tonight. I'm not sure if everybody's been here at least one other month, but this is a 7-month series called Shifting Your Mindset. And each month we go through a different skill or a different focus on the theme of how to be with your illness with more ease. And so this is month 4 already. I can't believe it. If you missed any of the months preceding this, they're all on the website. So you can go back and watch those recordings. And in each month, there's a practice. And so there's a tool that you can take with you through the month to keep your practice going. So I'll start with just doing a quick recap of last month. And the theme was surrender and trust. The practice we learned was the vagus nerve reset. The vagus nerve is responsible for turning on your parasympathetic response, which is what brings you into rest and digest. So it's really, really important when we have chronic illness to do whatever we can to be in that state as often as possible to maximize our recovery and just our well being. And so it was a quick little practice, and I'll demonstrate it right now, and you can do it throughout our talk tonight. Just a reminder. So you start with your hands interlaced behind your head at the base of your spine. And then you can either with eyes open or closed, you turn your eyes with while keeping your head straight forward. You're going to just turn your eyes all the way to the right and hold them there for about 30 seconds. And you'll notice at some point you're either going to yawn or sigh or swallow. And when that happens, it's an indicator that you've gone into your parasympathetic. So you're already more relaxed just from doing that quick little eye movement. And then you can flick your eyes to the left and repeat that. And so it just takes a few seconds, and you can do this as many times as you want. And the other thing that we did was a breathing practice, which is the 4-7-8 breath, where you breathe in for the count of 4, you hold for 7, and you breathe out for the count of 8 at whatever speed works for you. So I typically go quite fast. I can't hold my breath for that long. And you do 4 cycles of that. And so the suggestion was, do these things before or after any stressful event. So before, just to sort of ground yourself and relax, and after to calm down. And so a great tool for the holidays to keep down the stress. Last month, we acknowledged that we can't control the symptoms or the trajectory of our myositis. If we could, we would all be obviously doing so much better. We wouldn't want to have this illness. So it's really out of our control. And so what we need to be mindful of is just focusing on what we can influence and surrendering the rest to a loving force that's greater than you. And so that could be God, if you believe in God, or the universe, or nature. If you connect with nature that way, anything that makes you feel expanded and takes you out of yourself and your day-to-day stresses or worries. Could even be your pet. And we talked about trusting that whatever happens to you, including your illness, is part of your divine plan. And that's a choice to believe that. That happens to be what I believe. You may not believe that, but it gives me peace to believe that. And when it's challenging to do this, when it's challenging to let go of the outcome, to let go of needing your illness to be different, and to trust that there's some reason that this is happening, particularly in those moments of pain or symptom flare ups, the invitation is just to notice, okay, well, what are my thoughts? Am I back in my negative thought loop of my stories that are just going to create suffering for me. This is what we talked about in month 1. And if that's so, you know, just pausing that because they can continue to loop and just bringing yourself back to presence. And the practice we did for that in month 1 is just taking a deep breath and closing your eyes and then listening for the first 10 sounds that you hear. And it's not about how many sounds you hear or how quickly. It's really about listening to something other than your negative thought loop. And you'll find that doing that, just in a few seconds, you'll notice your breathing start to slow down and you'll become present. So it's really quick to, once you notice that you're in that thought loop, to bring yourself back. And also the invitation last month to pray, if that makes sense to you, if you have a relationship with the divine in those moments where you're struggling, ask for help, for greater ease, for relief from the pain that you're feeling in that moment, or from the fear that it's never going to go away or it's not going to get better. And also, of course, you can reach out for support to our community, to your own friends, to whoever can sort of talk you off that ledge when you're in distress. And then we finish off the month by doing a practice to cultivate trust. Because I think trust really is a practice. When our mind can constantly come in and say that the worst thing's going to happen and we need to be afraid of this and that, trusting that it's all going to be okay really takes practice. So we did that I had you look in the rear view mirror, which means just looking at some things that have happened to you in the past and remembering, hey, what did I think was going to happen before? Like, what was I worried about? What was I predicting that was going to happen that would have been, bad or negative? And then what actually happened? And noticing how many times you thought something really awful was going to happen and it actually turned out to be way better than expected. So doing this on a regular basis, just noticing every time you have sort of that negative prediction and reflecting, did it come true? And if you can even like make a note of those in your phone, jot them down, you'll start to build up a database of, oh, life is actually a lot friendlier and kinder than I gave it credit for. And you can start to educate your mind, which is very fearful, that, hey, we don't need to be as afraid. Look at all the times in the past where we thought something bad was going to happen and it didn't materialize. So that was last month. This month, our topic is choosing and guiding your body. And we're going to do that with our attention, placing our attention on what we choose, as well as our intention, setting intentions for what we want to experience. So we're going to talk today about the body-mind connection, the intelligence of our cells. Our cells are conscious. We may not actually, it may not really feel that that's true, because we think of our consciousness coming from our mind and our mind making all the decisions, but actually each little cell makes decisions too. And we're going to learn a little bit about that and talk about how to make it work for us, how to make the fact that our cells are conscious and that our body and our mind are connected, and how to do that in an easy and playful way. We're going to use the power of our focus to guide our bodies away from our fears towards what we want to experience. And then we'll do a guided meditation towards the end to experience how our attention affects our experience. So let's get started. Okay, so the mind-body connection. This is a quote from Bruce Lipton. Beliefs and thoughts alter the cells in your body. Is anybody here familiar with Bruce Lipton? Anybody heard of him? He's a scientist, and he studies the field of epigenetics, which is the idea that behaviors and the environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. So it's not always your genetic material that determines what happens to you and what happens to your body. It's actually a lot of the time our behaviors and our environment, our thoughts, our feelings, the stress that we're surrounded by. And this sort of makes sense to us. We hear a lot about the impact of stress, and we've talked in this series about the impact of our emotions on our health and our thoughts, but it's actually being studied. And he also talks about how our cells are conscious and they respond to signals from the environment, including our thoughts and our beliefs. So this takes us back to month one when we were looking at our thoughts and our negative beliefs that we can have around our health and how that can create stress for us and distress just emotionally, but it also affects our cells and also the effectiveness of treatment. So he discovered that whatever treatment is administered, whether it's medication, whether it's uh, supplements that we're taking, alternative treatments, energy medicine, ancient practices like Ayurveda or yoga, like anything really, we have a great impact on the effectiveness of the treatment with our internal belief system. So that's really empowering because once we become aware of those beliefs that we have that are maybe not serving us or serving our health, and we can begin to challenge them or just notice them and let them go, then we have agency over our experience. It changes the signals that are sent to our cells, and this can help promote our health and well being. So it may not cure us of our illness, but it can definitely reduce the stress that we're under. It can give our bodies the message that we're safe. A lot of uh, our health is impacted by our nervous system. And so when we can give our mind the message and our body as well that we are safe, that things are okay, they calm down and they start responding and they're not freaked out and going into fight or flight, but they can do what they're meant to do, which is digest, which is repair, which is rest, all of that. So just a reminder really to remember to take note of those beliefs. So I shared in month one how I had that belief, which was working against my healing efforts, that I can't get better and nobody can help me. So it didn't matter what treatment I did. I kind of went in with that belief running me. And I believe that it sabotaged the effectiveness of the things that I was doing. Bruce Lipton also talks about the placebo effect, and I'm sure you've all heard of that. That is where just the simple act of taking a pill can stimulate the brain to believe that the body is being healed or is, going to be um, the symptom that we're experiencing is going to be lessened. So placebos won't heal you again, but they can make you feel better. And they work best on symptoms that are influenced by our brain. So that could be things like the perception of pain. I whenever I go to the dentist, I just need to sit in his chair and open my mouth and they pull out that thing where the water shoots out and I immediately wince. And so it's that expectation that I'm having of it's going to hurt, it's going to be uncomfortable. So much of it is linked to our brain. And so the placebo effect has been studied a lot, and they did a study with migraine medication. And they found that the placebo was 50% as effective at reducing the migraine pain, even when participants were told they were getting a placebo. Usually with studies, they're double blind and the neither the person doing the study or the participant knows who's getting the drug and who's getting the placebo. But in this one, they decided to just test the effect of the placebo, even when people knew that they were getting it. And it was amazing. Like the fact that they still knew they were getting the placebo and their symptoms went down by 50% by taking this sugar pill is just astounding. So it's very powerful and we can use it to our advantage. And the opposite is true, which is the nocebo effect. When a patient experiences adverse effects, like side effects of a drug, if they're told that they're, so for example, in that same study, the people who were on the placebo were told, you are going to get the placebo, and but here are the side effects of the active drug. And some of them were actually developing the side effects, even though they weren't on the active medication. So we can minimize this uh, and enhance the effectiveness of our treatment by reducing our negative expectations of the treatment by just deciding to trust, like I'm going to believe, that this medication is going to help me, and managing our anxiety about the treatment. And so that might be a good time to do the vagal nerve reset. I might start to do that at the dentist. I haven't thought of that, but what a good time to practice. I do sometimes practice my breathing there. So whatever we can do to reduce the nocebo effect and our negative expectations about treatment can help. So all this is well and good, but how can we give ourselves a placebo without taking a drug? Because not all of us are on medication, or we want to be able to take our well-being into our own hands and not just be reliant on a drug. So we can actually guide our body with our intention, and that's the focus of today. So our cells are conscious and they are listening to you, and you can kind of think of them as tiny little receivers that are tuned in to your internal radio station of your thoughts or your beliefs or your intentions. And so you can use this to your advantage by guiding them and telling them what you want. Instead of letting your fear run the show, you can tell your body, hey, this is what I want to happen. I want this treatment to be effective. I want to experience minimal discomfort at the dentist. I want to digest my food without feeling like I have an upset stomach after. So you want to make your intentions and your guidance to your body louder than those fear thoughts. So really what we're doing is we're shifting our focus from looking for symptoms, like I was doing at a dentist, where I'm looking to experience pain or discomfort, or looking for side effects, like the people who took that pill in the study and they were like, okay, I think I feel, pain in my right arm or stomach discomfort or whatever the side effects were. So instead of focusing on that, it's shifting our focus to what do you want to experience and feel. And this is sometimes challenging. I decided that, I'm recovering from a hip fracture and I'm reliant on using a walker when I'm outside. And this has been a few months now. And I would really love my independence back and to not need to use my walker because I'm not strong enough to lift it in and out of the car by myself, which means I need somebody with me. So it's a bit of a nuisance. So a month ago, I set an intention to walk with a cane independently by December 6th. And I had this on my phone and I'd look at it every day and I would cringe every time. And I'm like, what is that? Like, well, what it was is I'm not actually in control of that. Like I can't decide, yes, I'm going to be able to do this. I could set a goal, but ultimately I'm not in control. So it didn't feel doable. And I needed to remind myself that I'm not in control of the outcome and to just trust that, hey, this isn't meant to be right now, but I am divinely guided, and to appreciate how things are right now, to appreciate the fact that I'm able to stay with my partner and he's able to assist me and I've got my needs met here, I'm comfortable. And so we'll talk a little bit in a bit about how we can make the process easier and where I went wrong in setting that intention a month out, and why that wasn't effective. So just to bring it back on point, we can let our fear drive us. Um, Another example of that for me would be when I'm outside and I'm walking, I if I'm not mindful, my body automatically starts to brace. I grip and I tighten up and I'm afraid of falling and I'm focused on that. And the thought loop is, I don't want to fall. I don't want to fall. When I fall, I injure myself. I fracture very easily. This is not what I want to happen. So I have to continually practice not doing that. And so when I notice myself going into that habitual pattern, just, okay, let me ground, like let me relax my legs, let me soften my hips and feel my feet on the ground and allow my legs to ground, like to just really feel like they're connected. And I can feel the connection to my legs and the circulation. And then shift my intention to, well, what do I want? And then I can say, okay, body, please get me to my car safely. And then let it go and let the body guide me. And it does. It's like, you know, having me be mindful of where I step. And I'm still equally mindful, but I'm not carrying that intense fear with me about, oh, I'm going to fall. I don't want to fall. So all that's lifted away, and I'm able to just be in the moment, walking to my car and having set that intention. And it's important to note that the outcome may still be the same. Like I'm not in control. I can still fall even with this intention. But we have a lot more peace when we do this because we're not stressing, we're not in our fear mind. Our body is more relaxed. So it's just a better way to live. There's nothing to lose either way. So I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the fears that you tend to focus on, either in your environment or when you're around others, that maybe the stresses of asking for help, or when you're out and about? What are some of the things that your fear mind likes to obsess over? Because, we can look at them together and see how we can work with them and maybe set an intention that will set you up for a better experience where you're not so driven by your anxiety. Myositis will flare. Yeah. End up not being able to walk again. Okay, and I'm curious about the myositis flaring. Is that in result to something you've just done? Like you've just eaten something or you've just exerted yourself, expended energy doing an activity? Is it something related in the moment? And then you're focused on, oh, now I think my myositis is going to flare. Okay, the fear that medication will stop working, constant relapse and not knowing when and how much more damage to the muscles. And so these are intense when we have these fears. Absolutely. And so maybe let's take one. We'll take the medications will stop working. What's an intention that you could hold around that you could give to your body around your medications? So instead of focusing on or worrying about them stopping working, what's an intention you could give to your body before and each time you take your medication? Like an affirmation that you can give to yourself that you can focus on instead. To be thankful for the medication. Yeah, I love that. Like, hey, body, like, I'm really grateful that we have the option of this medication because I don't know what I would do without it. I don't know how effective it will be, but I'm going to trust that it will help me today. And I'm really grateful that I have it. That's a much better way to go into taking the medication than worrying about the worst case scenario. So that's one example. Thank you very much for sharing that one. So another intention around that, yeah, I will get better. I have a loving and caring, supportive team around me. So it's not just the medication, it's the team and just really anticipating recovery. It's beautiful. This is for you, just a challenge. Try and think of any fears that you're holding that maybe you can shift with your intention, and we can work with you on that if you're wanting some help. Okay, so I see one about there being more immune issues down the road. So what's an intention you could set around that? I'm thinking one's enough. Like, I've got as much as I can handle. Thank you very much. Like, I'm intending to recover from this one or to manage this one well, and I don't need any more. Oh, here we go. So I will handle each new obstacle with grace and keep fighting. Yeah, I love that. There's that saying that we only get as much as we can handle. We're never given more than we can handle, I think is the saying. And we're all experts at building resilience and handling things with grace. And so it's absolutely true that you are able to handle everything with grace and keep fighting and keep showing up. And so it's not a lie to tell that to your body when you're feeling that fear, to just remind yourself. And that's self-love. Tell yourself you're good enough. Absolutely. And better than yesterday, and be better than yesterday. Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone. I also use this technique of guiding my body for things that I'm afraid of doing, like more challenging things. So I have a lot of dietary restrictions, things that I don't digest well, like gluten, like dairy. But one thing that I used to love is French croissant. Just that flaky, buttery, just melt in your mouth. But I hadn't allowed myself to eat one since I changed my diet back in 2018. And so that's a lot of deprivation. And sometimes I just want the croissant. So I was near a French bakery and I actually planned to go in there. It was near where I was getting my hair cut one day. And I thought, I'm going to allow it and I'm going to try this practice. I'm going to talk to my body and before and during and after. And so I did. And I just said, hey, body, we're going to do something that we don't do very often. And it might be challenging for you, but I'd really, really love to enjoy this without feeling symptoms in my belly. Can you do your best to digest it? And I promise I'm not going to make a regular habit of this. And I just felt such joy, like guilt-free pleasure doing that. Um, and I don't remember if I had symptoms after, but I guess my advice to you, if you try this, and is if you do, to just let go of the fear, or the guilt rather, and the regret, and just remind yourself, hey, we chose this. It gave us pleasure. It's just an occasional thing, and it's okay. We're okay. We're going to be all right. So when we want to do things like this, it's really like allowing ourselves to enjoy it, to indulge, the odd time if it's not something we do often. And when we can do that without the anticipation of something going wrong, we're actually supporting our digestive system because we're not shooting through our system the adrenaline and the cortisol, which are those stress hormones that actually interfere with your digestion. Okay, so take a look at this picture. You can see it's like a string of Christmas lights all tangled up there, what you often find when you unpack the decorations. And I want you to imagine for a minute that your body is wired up with millions of these tiny little Christmas lights, and that these represent your cells or your body parts. And the lights that are illuminated are working well. So those are the body parts that are working well. They're not having issues right now. And the red bulb maybe represents something that you've struggled with, a symptom or a body part that is not doing as well. So where does your attention go when you look? For me, I immediately notice that red bulb, but then I notice my eyes dart over to the green one because it's glowing. It's just more interesting and I focus there. I definitely notice the red bulb though, but we can sort of get hung up on it and like, oh, I don't like the way that looks and I want to change the red bulb and why is it not working and getting frustrated and that's how we can be with our body when something's not working. And so, what if instead we were just to shift our attention, just notice it, like, oh, that's not working as well today. Like, okay, I was walking better yesterday, definitely struggling a bit more today. Something's different. But rather than stress over it and focus on it and wonder when it's going to go away and what's wrong and what did I do yesterday to make this happen, shifting our attention to the green bulb, to something that, hey, I notice that I feel well rested today, or I have a good appetite, or I'm excited to interact with my whoever, my friend today. Just something else that is, enjoyable or feels good or is working in our body. And so you wouldn't be alone if you were to focus on the red bulb and stress over it, because this is really what our mind does. It is programmed for our survival to notice when things aren't working so that it can get our attention. But it can do this to our detriment, as you've all discovered, with how much stress we can get ourselves into when we allow that to go on. So it's really important to be able to shift your attention and to know that where your attention goes, your energy flows. And energy, our attention and our energy and our presence is healing. And so when we can use that to our advantage and shift out of that fight, flight, stress mode into, hey, what feels good? We're really benefiting our whole system. So you get to decide where to place your attention. And that's what we're going to work with today. So it's really about allowing that red bulb to be burnt out, just noticing it, allowing it, and then shifting your focus to the lights that are working well. Because, we can replace the red bulb, but we might not be able to replace the burnt out lights in our body. I got the hip replacement, but it doesn't mean that, anything else that goes wrong has an easy solution. So we need to be able to live with it and also shift our focus. And also know that, even when we have burnt out bulbs, it doesn't prevent the whole string of lights or the whole body as a whole from shining. So how do we handle the frustration when, we're just not doing well one day and we're trying this, but we're struggling. We're struggling with fear and it's not so easy to shift our attention towards what we want. Or it doesn't work. How do we handle that frustration? So I I set an intention most nights to fall asleep with ease and wake up feeling refreshed. Um, and sometimes that works. Many times it works, actually. My sleep's been improving. Last night it didn't. There was something going on in my body. I was feeling a lot of agitation and I wasn't able to sleep. I needed to get up and release that tension. And so I'm tired, you know? So what happens? How can we handle that frustration? we really want to be able to do this in a way that it's inviting. We want the process of guiding our body and guiding ourselves to feel easy, or we're not going to want to do it. So I sort of thought about what ingredients matter in this and what's helped me. And there's a few things. So I find it helps to treat it as an experiment. That sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like the times when I'm not able to fall asleep well, but it definitely feels better to set my intention for a better sleep and then let go of it, or set my intention to digest well and then not stress over what I'm eating, or set my intention to get to my car safely and not stress over falling. So it feels better to do this. And so there's really nothing to lose. So just treating it as an experiment, you're gathering data and hey, I'm just going to do this fun little thing and set an intention and see where that gets me. The other thing is to set immediate doable goals. Our body is really, I'm discovering, working with the immediate. So when I try to set a goal a month out to, body, I'd like to be able to walk with a cane independently outside by December 6th. My body was like, what? Like, I'm just focused on today. Like, I have no idea, what you're talking about. So I think that's why it didn't work. And I was also setting an intention for being able to ride a bike this summer, and that didn't happen. I rode a tandem bike, but I wasn't able to ride one myself. Where I'm discovering a lot more success, where it's actually working for me, is when I do it in the present moment for something that's happening now, or, something that I want to happen in the next hour, like digest my food. So, yeah, setting an immediate goal. Body, I'd like you to digest this meal. I'd like to fall asleep with ease. I'd like to have help available, when I need to get up from this chair, like if you're out at an event, and just guiding you won't have control over that, but maybe body, I'd like to be able to get up um, with the assistance that I have. I'd like to be strong enough to do that. And then just letting go of the outcome. If we're constantly assessing our progress, like, hey, am I asleep yet? How many more hours till I need to get up? How am I going to feel in the morning? Like, if you're constantly checking and evaluating how you're doing with your goal, then you're creating the very stress that you don't want, and it works against you. So if I don't sleep well, or my intention doesn't pan out, I just trust that there's a reason and that I'll be okay. And I am okay. I didn't sleep well last night, and I'm functioning. I had a rest earlier, and I'm doing just fine. And lastly, just be playful and light. This isn't heart surgery we're doing. We're just guiding our body. We're doing an experiment to allow something else other than our fear to guide us. And why not? We have every right to do that. So treating these directives that we give our body as playful experiments, and making it playful and light, we're more likely to do them. So now we're going to put this into practice, and we're going to do a guided meditation. So just settle in to wherever you're sitting or lying. We're going to be here for about 10 minutes. And we're going to practice this stuff. We're going to practice choosing and guiding our body through our attention. Just see how that feels. Have an experience of that today. So let's begin. You're welcome to gently close your eyes and begin to relax your body, relaxing your shoulders, your arms, your hands, just sinking into your chair, relaxing your hips, your legs, feeling your feet on the ground, and starting to bring your awareness to your breath. Feel your breath rise and fall, feeling your chest or your belly rise and fall. And now take a moment to realize that you're in a pretty incredible physical body. Even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes, this body is magnificent. And it does so much for you. It's really doing everything it can to support you. And it's doing a really good job of keeping you alive and breathing and your heart beating and so many things that go on without your awareness day by day. So, regardless of what's going on in your mind right now, the thoughts that might be happening, but what you're going to do later, or a symptom or annoying thing that you're feeling in your body, a pain, or what happened earlier, there's still this incredible machine called the human body that is keeping you alive. And how wonderful is it to be here right now? So just recognizing that right now. You can imagine yourself lying in bed, all snuggled with your cozy, fluffy blanket, and you're safe. You're safe and you're warm in your bed. You're held, can sink into your bed and be held, and you can rest. Just like you can rest in your bed, you can also rest in your body. And now imagine your body as a house, decorated with thousands of tiny lights. Some are green, some are red, some are white, some are twinkling on and off. Maybe the odd bulb is burnt out, but on the whole, it looks pretty fantastic and it's working pretty well. Each of your cells is like a small bulb capable of glowing brightly. Notice which parts of your body naturally draw your attention right now. Which areas feel most present or most activated? Observe without judgment any areas that feel dim or uncomfortable. Now I'm going to give you a dimmer switch. Imagine you're holding it. With each breath, you can use your dimmer switch to gradually increase the light. And you're going to do this by directing your attention, just like that flow of electricity. So choose a part of your body that you'd like to illuminate. Perhaps it's your heart beating steadily, your hands that create and touch and wrap presents and bake and do all those things. Maybe it's your feet that support you as you're sitting here, as you're walking. Maybe it's your throat that expresses your voice, asks for what you want, or your brain that generates ideas, or any part that feels healthy and strong. Watch as that area begins to glow more brightly. Notice how the light might spread to neighboring tissues and organs just by having your attention there and feeling grateful, noticing how it's twinkling. Notice how that impacts you. How does it feel to do that? And now bring your attention to an area that's a little dimmer. Perhaps it's your lungs inviting them. You want to invite them to breathe more fully. Maybe it's your shoulders. It can soften and release with your attention. Or your legs that need encouragement to move freely without bracing. Maybe it's your mind permitting it to rest without guilt. Your hips that can feel safe to soften and trust. Or your heart that can feel safe to open. As you focus on this area, imagine the light growing brighter. Use your dimmer switch. Just have this area brighten. You're sending a message to these cells that they're safe to function as designed. Picture yourself engaging with this part of your body in a new way. Maybe taking a deep breath without restriction if that's hard for you. Maybe your intention is to move with more confidence and less fear. Or your intention is to rest peacefully without guilt. Or to exercise with enjoyment. Watch as that area begins to glow even brighter with this new possibility. You might become aware of old patterns trying to dim these lights. Thoughts of, that can't happen. I don't know how to do that. That's not safe. Simply notice these thoughts and choose again to brighten your chosen area with your attention and intention. We're just doing make believe here. So even if it doesn't seem possible in your real life, you get to do whatever you want in your visualization. And you get to set these intentions and just notice what impact it has. So just notice. And now take a moment to observe your whole physical body, this network of lights that responds to your attention and your choices. Remember, you always have access to this dimmer switch of awareness to illuminate any part of your body. You can choose at any time to direct your body toward what you want rather than what you fear. Hold this image of your body responding to your conscious guidance. And now gradually bringing your attention back to the room. Just before you open your eyes, just take a moment. Notice how your body feels, the areas that you focused on, particularly the one that was dim. How does it feel now that you've placed some attention on it? And what new possibility did you envision for it? And as you're ready, you can open your eyes, come back to the room. Would anybody like to share in the chat either what part of the body they chose to illuminate or what their experience was when they set the intention? Okay, somebody's focused on their hips as they have been a source of pain recently. That's great. And did you find it was helpful when you did that? When you illuminated it? Or was there a certain intention that you gave it or vision that you had for how you'd like to move with your hips? And vision was to get up without pain, to move freely. Oh, it's beautiful. Hmm. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Okay, we're just going to finish up here with our practice for the month. So thanks everybody for going with me on the inner journey. Our practice this month is around intention setting. And so when you feel afraid this month, or you're expecting a negative outcome, whether it's your medication or how you're going to move, or even just how your holidays are going to pan out, when you're feeling that fear or worry and you're noticing yourself anticipating things not going well, just pause. Just stop, pause, and then ask yourself, hey, what do I want to experience? Instead of what you don't want to happen, what is it you want to experience? And how do I wish to feel? You want to feel peaceful, you want to feel relaxed, you want to trust, you want to feel ease, gratitude, and then guide your body. Body, I wish to enjoy my holiday with a minimum of stress. And, you know, that's also programming your mind. So, body, maybe we'll focus more on physical stuff. Body, I wish to get to my car safely. I wish to fall asleep with ease. I wish to have the strength to get out of this chair. So that's your practice for the month. And I'd love to hear how it goes next month. And I wish everybody a happy holiday. And I just want to thank you so much for coming tonight.